2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome to the NESN Soccer Show. I'm Marc with Marcus and Nicholas Goss. Russia wins 5-0. The World Cup is officially underway. 5 goals. I don't think anybody really expected that.
Yeah, I called 4-0.
Uh-oh. Did you, Marcus?
Marcus expected it.
Who really cares?
The prophet, Marcus.
Who really cares what I think?
But quite a spectacle. The whole event was, the ceremony itself was kind of typical, I felt like. Just kind of some people singing, some dancing, some extravagant artwork. But Putin sort of addressed the world. That was cool, I guess. But for me, aside from Russia winning 5-0, my favorite part of this game was when Vladimir Putin and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia,
Mohammed bin Salman.
Is that how you, didn't want to take a shot at it, but there you go. They shook hands after Russia's first goal with a little shrug of, hey, it's just a game. All in good fun, question mark. A lot of things to take away from that picture. I don't think we're going to get into all of them. But
I liked the picture, and I liked my caption.
What was your caption?
Trying to hit the club after the game?
I'm sure they are.
Yeah, it's a lot funnier if you see the picture.
Yeah. I think everybody will have seen the picture that's going to be listening to this. But also, FIFA President Infantino sitting between them, the two country leaders. It would have been very interesting to know the continuous conversation going on throughout the game. But yeah, so Nick, I'll start with you. Just kind of, I guess Marcus wasn't surprised, but I think you and I were saying we were surprised by the 5-0 victory. And I was saying that when it was 2-0, I was kind of like, this is kind of what I expected. I did expect Russia to come out and win the opening match, but then it just kind of got out of hand at the end.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised that Russia won, but I was surprised certainly that they scored the goals that they did. Saudi Arabia actually had a 59 to 41% possession edge, but
what?
Did they really?
That's what ESPN says. Yeah.
What does FIFA say?
Well, they did have kind of like a counter-attacking
they did,
approach.
And the Russians had 13 shots to Saudi Arabia's 6. They had 7 shots on goal. Saudi Arabia had none. So the Russians weren't really tested at the back. We know that will change when Mo Salah of Egypt and Uruguay's attacking duo of Luis Suarez and Edinson Cavani go up against them. But I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better start for Russia. They're supremely confident going into their 2 most important group games. So yeah, not much to criticize from their point of view.
One of the best stories I'm seeing after this game is Russia's coach, whose name I do not know off the top of my head.
That's a tough one.
In the middle of his press conference, he pauses because he has to take a call. Who's the one person that you will interrupt a press conference to take a call from?
Was it Zlatan Ibrahimovic?
It was Vladimir Putin. Close.
Right.
Vladimir Putin calls him in the middle of the press conference and thanked him for giving the Russian people so much to celebrate.
I believe you pronounce the name Stanislav Kurchetsov.
That's pretty good.
All right.
I think.
Yeah, I think that sounded good.
But yeah, that's definitely a funny moment. I wonder, so many conversations I just wish I could hear, and I wouldn't tell a soul if that's the promise I had to make. My curiosity would be fulfilled. But
what language do you think Putin and the Crown Prince are speaking?
If they were speaking the same
Money.
language, yeah. If they were, it would have to be English, I would guess, right? Because Saudi Arabia has to deal with English-speaking people often.
They both talk to the United States. So.
Yeah, maybe he knows Russian.
Yeah,
I'm
possible.
sure. Putin probably knows a lot of different languages, I would guess.
Yeah.
How else could he? I won't say it.
But this, just for the Russian soccer team.
I'll say it. How else could he rule the world?
For the Russian soccer team, this was their greatest moment in quite a long time. There was
probably ever.
Yeah, and I think it will be the greatest moment for them of the tournament.
Since the 1960s.
Yeah, and maybe the greatest moment for a good amount of time to come after this tournament has ended. So it's just, good for the Russian people, I guess, to be able to enjoy it. But I guess the last thing that I really would like to talk about, if you guys have anything to say about it, is like the Putin address before the game. I don't know if you were watching the broadcast, but there's all these like wide stadium shots, and then all of a sudden it starts to sort of slowly zoom in on this little like platform in the upper deck, and it's just Putin standing like above all of his people, and he just starts his speech. And what he said was basically just like, welcome to Russia, happy to have the football world, the World Cup is great. But it just really seemed like sort of his moment, for better or for worse, and he made sure he was front and center as much as he could be, I felt like.
That's what the head of every host nation does at the start of the World Cup. I think we should move on.
Yeah.
You're giving this way more importance than
I guess it was just Russia versus Saudi Arabia.
It was the first game of the World Cup. Putin was there. He spoke.
Yeah.
And he sat next to a couple other people.
I'm just excited that soccer has started.
Yeah.
We said it in the last...
Which is what we should be talking about.
You're right.
And a man named Denis Cheryshev came in the 24th minute and just took over. And, yeah, his first goal was good. His second goal, I wrote it up quickly, first great goal of the World Cup in the books.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the highlight. Outside of his foot, left foot, to the far right corner. Very nice.
His first touch on that first goal to kind of create space, just kind of like, probably a little bit of luck involved, but he kind of like flicked it over two defenders and then just was able to kind of open up a little bit of space for him to rip it. And even like a minute before he scored his first goal, he had already created a couple of chances for his team. So, and
another player we have to mention is Alexander Golovin, who I think he hit the free kick at the end and also had 2 assists. I forget on which goals, but yeah, Russia's youngest player, and what a player he's going to be. Alan Zhagoev, who was supposed to be Russia's key man, their playmaker, limped off in the 24th minute, and when that happened, I said, uh-oh, this could be bad. But I didn't see Cheryshev coming in and basically becoming LeBron James for the next hour.
So, 5-goal, positive differential right now for them. What do you think about Russia's chances at this very moment to advance to the round of 16? I
wouldn't put too much stock into it. Clearly, it was a good result for them, and like you said, the goal difference tiebreaker, they're off to a nice start there. But for me, Egypt and certainly Uruguay are the best teams in this group, especially if Mo Salah is playing for Egypt. So I want to see them play one of those two teams because I think we both agree that Saudi Arabia is the worst team in this group.
I guess after today.
Did you say in the group or in the tournament?
Either one, but certainly this group. For this group's purposes, they're certainly the worst team, and I don't think any team will have any issues scoring against them. So, it's certainly a good start for Russia. Good that they can win without one of their best players, and they have guys off the bench who can come in. Marc has talked about Golovin coming in. Clearly, the stage is not too bright for him, which is a good sign for Russia.
Yeah, Siberian kid.
But I want to see them play some of the better teams before I say that they're really on their way.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
It helps. If they want to get to the round of 16.
What they have to do.
Yeah.
I think the big match for them is versus Egypt, and maybe they get Mo Salah trying to fight through an injury that he just really shouldn't be trying to fight through, and it ends up going in their favor, and it just kind of works out for them in that way, and maybe they can get a draw, and then with the goal differential, that ends up being sort of the difference in them advancing. But yeah, obviously, good start, and a great way to sort of start the World Cup and get us excited for the weekend's matches. Anything else from the opening match?
I think that's it for me.
Yeah. Well, the 2026 World Cup.
Can we get to the reason why we're podcasting today? It's not to talk about Russia and Saudi Arabia.
USA, Mexico.
Which was, I won't say it. No. Go ahead.
USA, Mexico, and Canada will host the 2026 World Cup. There's a lot of different things to talk about here. I kind of just stuck in a few things that I think maybe contributed to the U.S. getting the bid, contributed to the United bid being placed in the first place. But United 2026 won in a landslide. The three host countries beat out Morocco. I think they doubled up the voting. Why exactly did that happen, Marcus?
It was a better bid.
Yeah.
This United States versus Morocco. No disrespect to Morocco and their organizational capabilities, but any objective observer will see, well, one, money talks. Mm-hmm. United States bid has a projected revenue of $15 billion versus the $5 billion that Morocco had projected. Morocco would need to build 16 stadiums. United States would need to tear down 16,000 stadiums in order just to get down to 16. The stadiums already exist. I think from any objective measure, it was a superior bid, and the sort of the threatened political consequences of the FIFA scandal of 2015 and Donald Trump's rhetoric and policies since 2016, I think they were either overblown or smoothed over, because the money that goes to FIFA is supposed to go to the federations who are voting for this. And it was also it wasn't a, what do they call, a blind vote, when you can't see who other people voted for. It was an open vote. Everybody could see who voted for whom. And yeah, it was just a better bid. It was, 48 teams, stick them in the United States versus 48 in Morocco. In Qatar, they moved the World Cup to November because it's too hot in the summer. I was wondering how hot it is in Morocco during the summer. It's hot in the United States in the summer too, but maybe we can add air conditioning to stadiums. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
well, there's going to be a few dome games, I would guess.
There'll be night games too. Will be a little better. I mean, for me, the reason why this bid was so good for FIFA is this will be the first 48 team World Cup, right?
Yeah.
You want that to be in a country that has, their logistics and the infrastructure already set. I mean, 17 of the 23 stadiums are ready. The other 6 just need, renovations or touch-ups.
Right.
So you already have that infrastructure there, and you have it's just a better place to, if there are any hiccups with the 48 teams or the scheduling, like there's so many venues.
Right.
I feel like if there's a problem, you can fix it easily, whereas you're at a country that needs to build all these things and hasn't handled a World Cup, let alone a 48 team World Cup. I feel like the safest pick would have been this bid.
Yeah,
and Marc has touched on it. The revenue it's a pretty big difference.
Yeah, and this is supposed to be the first clean bidding process after the FIFA scandal. Had Morocco won, it would have been purely through kind of vindictiveness and punitive measures, which if there's anything FIFA, which is struggling to find sponsors, didn't want, it was something like that. So this is kind of a way to wipe the slate clean for FIFA.
I was watching the Gillette Stadium press conference that was sort of immediately following the vote, and the New England Revolution team president, Brian Bilello, was going through what would need to happen to Gillette Stadium to host World Cup games, and the biggest challenge was changing from turf to grass. Yeah. And it's just okay, I think we can
first
deal with
world problems.
Yeah. But so which city do we think would host the final, and have you started devising your plan to get to that game yet? Because
I will say that the Yahoo Sports has an article here that the U.S. must cut a list of 17 cities down to 10, and it has proposed that the Rose Bowl for the opener, the Atlanta Falcons Stadium in Atlanta, and the Cowboys Stadium for the semifinals, and then MetLife Stadium for the final. How do we feel about that?
From what I read, it was, for the running of the final, was New York, Los Angeles, which might not be the Rose Bowl. It might be the new
LA Stadium. Yeah.
LA Football Stadium, LA NFL Football Stadium, or Dallas, which would be Jerry's World.
Yeah.
As to where's the final, I don't really care.
But it'll be in the United States. It's not gonna be in Canada,
Every game from the quarterfinal on will be in the United States. Will I be going? No, I can't afford it now, and I won't be able to afford it then.
Position yourself to be working in some capacity at that game. Maybe I see you.
No comment.
If it's in New York, it's pretty close to here.
I think every city that we've named, like sort of so far, will be either hosting a semifinal at the worst, and then are in the running for the final. And the opener is obviously the sort of, I guess, third biggest match, I guess you'd say. But the list of cities is pretty good, and it's also going to be like MLS venues are kind of out according to
it's got to be minimum 40,000 minimum 40,000 seaters for World Cups.
And I would think it would pretty much be NFL stadiums because of just how much luxury seating there is, and sort of how they're a little more
that's where the money
modern
is.
and up to date than maybe like a big college stadium. But it's I can't wait. It's 8 years away. I'll be older, but it's going to be a fun time. And sort of with the field expanding to 48 teams, maybe gets rid of not 100%, but 99% of any fear that the United States might miss another World Cup after this expansion, or it'd just be very, very difficult. They'd have to really drop off to miss.
Marcus, what's the so USA, because it's 3 countries in this bid, they not automatically gain entry? How does that work?
To be determined. I found it was strange that's the question everybody's been asking, and it's like this. U.S. soccer inferiority complex is, roared back to the head, which, I guess that's having not
qualified.
Yeah, not qualified for the World Cup. I guess that's warranted, but yesterday when it broke, a colleague recommended I write a story about it. And I was like, no, it's not important. Who cares who qualifies in 8 years?
Right.
But then, after 100 people asked me, I guess I was like, well, I guess I'll write about it. And the answer is FIFA will determine that in the future.
Right.
As for who gets the automatic qualifying spot, I guess I'll say the same.
Mexico's going to qualify anyway.
Right.
So
if the U.S. and Canada.
You'd think, 48 teams,
right.
I mean, in this year's format, right, the United States would have been very much in the field of play had it been 48 teams.
Yeah.
And, it's like almost, for me, it's 16 more teams. It's almost no fear. Each, like the CONCACAF probably would have been granted
get
3 or 4
2
more
spots. Yeah. The U.S. not qualifying in 2018, I think going forward is like a once in a 30-year thing.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't matter who qualifies automatically or doesn't, because the U.S. is going to qualify in 2022 and 2026.
That's basically only important for Canada, I guess. But I'd hope that they would be. I hope that all 3 countries are in it, and then sort of you would think that all their group stage matches would be within their country.
Yeah.
And it just kind of make like 3 host countries. It'd just be awesome. But so for local purposes, Gillette Stadium, sort of, I guess you'd say a favorite to host with Robert Kraft's connections.
Yeah, sixth biggest media market in the country.
Yeah, and even like without his connections, they would have been in good position anyway.
They've hosted quite a few big matches.
Yeah, they hosted World Cup games in 1994.
And just even beyond soccer, it's just kind of a destination of any sort of large event, I mean.
What, Boston?
Well, I mean, I think Gillette Stadium is just kind of a premier stadium in the United States. Not the premier, not the elite, but sort of that, right in that second tier
in that group, yeah.
that qualifies for this tournament.
Sure, Marc.
Marcus.
Hey, I like Gillette Stadium as much as the next man, but
it's lovely. Patriot place.
Yeah.
Well, all right, so Nick, anything else from the 2026 World Cup bid going through that kind of caught your attention?
I think one point I'll have it. It's great for the United States. Obviously, anytime you can host that event, you turn a spotlight onto the sport and you get people excited, and hopefully that can help grow the sport, get people interested in not only world soccer but in the MLS too. I think this will be great for all aspects of U.S. soccer. So that's fantastic, especially after missing out on this tournament. I think they've lost some of that accelerated growth. But I think it's great for the country. It's been a while. It was 1994, I believe, and was the last time the United States had it. So it's really the biggest opportunity the United States has had to show that we are a real soccer nation, and we want this to be a big part of our sporting culture.
Yeah, Marcus.
Yes.
Any final thoughts on?
Yeah, I'm looking at this a little bigger than soccer.
Sure.
Look, it's not a cash grab. The United States is a cash cow for big soccer. And that's just kind of what, for top level soccer, as we see every summer. And but this is more important because, I had a very quiet night at home last night where I got to think, and I was like, what is this World Cup really about? Is that we will be coming off of 4 to 8 years of Donald Trump's presidency, where I'm not going to sit here and try and explain the foreign policy, but it looks like
I think people have a good idea.
Looks like our alliances are a little bit frayed. Maybe the United States is retreating from its role in the world, and this is a time of great change. And what will happen in 2026 is that, and this isn't my idea, I actually stole this from somebody who commented on an Associated Press story, but I thought it was remarkable, is that this is going to give the United States and people of the United States a chance to interact with people from the world, because they will come here for this World Cup and to party and to, visit the United States in great numbers. And I have a feeling in 2026, the people of the United States will really need that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm most looking forward to, a chance to plug back into the world that we might. Are we unplugging out from? I don't know what's going on, but I think that'll be the most important aspect of it. I
think, to that point, whoever is the sitting president at that time, it'll be a very important event for that person.
And it will be somebody different than Trump, whether he wins re-election or not.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it'll be different by then.
But we still will be living in the age of Trump.
Right.
Correct. There's always a political backdrop to these events.
Yes, there is.
Whether it's the Olympics or the World Cup, it's always a big factor.
Ignore it at your peril.
Seems to be a lot of commotion going on in the hallway of our studio. We can't tell what it is, but it's
not going to knock us off our game, though.
Yeah, it's fine. Back to this year's World Cup. So the couple stories have already sprung up. We can't really hit them all, but we will hit Spain's head coach was fired on Tuesday or Wednesday. It was sort of in that weird period of we weren't sure what day it was here in the United States. But he was fired because he took the head coaching job at Real Madrid. So it's hard to say that he was really even fired. He might have already been halfway out the door. But they play Portugal on Friday.
Pretty big match.
And sort of Spain is sort of one of those teams where they're a traditional favorite and they have a lot of talent, but they didn't perform so well in the last World Cup. And it was just, it's sort of, they could put it all together and be great, or it could all crumble. And when your head coach gets fired 2 days before you're supposed to play the toughest team in your group, maybe it's leaning towards crumble. What do you think, Marcus?
I'm calling this soccer suicide. Did a little. I was, stunned by this yesterday. Well, I was stunned 2 days ago when Real Madrid announced that they were hiring Spain's coach 3 days before the World Cup. Even though he was supposed to stay for the World Cup,
right?
That is such a destabilizing thing. And it's not like Spain is opening up against who else is in the group, Iran or Morocco.
Yeah,
they're playing Portugal in their opener, and boy, when your coach is negotiating contracts, and I know it's his agent, but when your coach is has his head turned less than a week before your biggest game kicks off, that ain't a good thing. I think Real Madrid bullied the Spanish Federation, and the Federation's new president, whose name escapes me at the moment, he's only been on the job for a few months, and he had a decision to make. Do you stick with this guy who is, for all intents and purposes, maybe not stabbed you in the back, but he's done something that, something wrong. He signed a new contract about 3 weeks ago that was supposed to take him through 2020, and then, in that time decides to take charge with Real Madrid. If you are going to do something like that, there are a million ways of going about it, and he chose the wrong one, or as wrong as it gets. So the Federation president decided he had to do something, and I guess it was stick with him or fire him. A lot of the players, Sergio Ramos included, they think they had like a 2-hour meeting with this president and tried to convince him to stick with the coach, but he still made the call.
Oh, that's not
and good. Yeah, I don't see it. Did I sit here last week and tell you Morocco might tip Spain?
You did. The prophet Marcus strikes again.
Well, I didn't see this coming. But, yeah. I mean, talk about a divisive move when I think there are only 4 Barcelona players left in that squad. But if somebody's asking why isn't Andres Iniesta playing, or maybe Gerard Piqué is sat down, there are all sorts of subplots and accusations that could be made. So I can see both sides of wanting to stick with them, because if you don't stick with them, it's effectively soccer suicide. But sticking with them, you're basically you're rolling over, and maybe Real Madrid runs the Spanish Federation anyway, and we just don't.
Well, that's what was confusing to me, at least a little, was like, I thought maybe Real Madrid would maybe sort of be involved with the Spain national team and not want to do anything to mess with the team right before a World Cup.
Why?
Like, I don't know, just out of country pride purely, but I guess this is not the case.
Did you not know that Real Madrid is bigger than the Spanish?
I know they're bigger, but maybe it's just kind of like
their brand is bigger?
Some sort of respect, pride, go Spain sort of thing that just doesn't exist.
Let me play devil's advocate for a moment.
Sure.
If this was a smaller team, I would be concerned.
If it was like Valencia or Sevilla.
Yeah, or even though it's like a smaller nation, like in this World Cup, I would be concerned. But this is Spain. These players have won everything at every level. And a lot of them have been playing with each other, whether for their various club teams or in Spain for many years. I don't think this coach will come in and change the tactics much. They know how they're going to play. They know what they need to do to be successful. It's a system that they've been obviously won many major tournaments with. I think they're experienced enough to get through this. This obviously is far from ideal.
Right.
But I think from an experience and talent perspective, I personally think they're going to go to the semifinal and lose to Germany.
Still?
What?
There's too much talent on this team.
No, there's no.
Yes,
I disagree.
There is. I think I look at the roster and I see the second.
Yes.
I see the second best goalie in the world. I see a top 3 center back partnership. I see midfielders that are world class, forwards who can score.
But I think you're underestimating, and I agree that there is a certain degree of maybe the coach isn't as important in certain situations.
Yeah.
But if you just have. And the sporting director took over as coach of Spain.
Yes, Fernando Hierro.
So you don't know what that relationship is like, and if this meeting is true where they pleaded with this same guy to keep the coach, and then he names himself the coach.
No, it wasn't him who. It was his boss.
Okay.
Who the players, Sergio Ramos and others, met with.
So that is what's most concerning to me, is that
you still have Spain going to the World Cup semifinal, even though they fired their coach 2 days before their first game.
I don't think the coach of Spain is a huge deal.
I think
to be honest. Like, there's a reason why they're the third favorite to win the tournament. Even after all this,
they're still the third
odds
favorite?
makers are the third favorite.
I know.
Behind Brazil and Germany. There's a reason for that.
Nick, please bet money on that. Put some of your hard-earned money. Put enough money that you're uncomfortable with losing and make that bet, please.
I don't think that...
And let me take a picture of your face when they crash out in the group stage.
In the group stage? Wow. I think there's a much better chance they get to the semifinal
maybe
than they lose.
Maybe the round of 16.
Well, that's the other thing, and it's like this sort of ongoing theme that we've brought up and that Marcus first introduced was the evening of soccer around the world. And
talking about that
like,
for a year.
The drop-off, like even the slight drop-off, it's close enough now where Morocco's good enough. They have professionals all over their team. Their training as a country is going to be professional. And they're close enough, whereas in past years, yeah, Spain just would maybe roll the ball out there and win because they're Spain, even like 20 years ago. That doesn't happen anymore.
Anything short of a 1980 U.S. ice hockey miracle on ice coming together of a team and the team bond, which, by the way, you have Real Madrid and Barcelona, as major power centers in that
and if anybody's
in that dressing room,
together,
and it takes exceptional leadership like Puyol and Xavi and Iker Casillas and Xabi Alonso did 8 years ago to really keep a lid on that. This isn't, these guys aren't MLS players who are trying to form a little bit of team spirit. This is eternal rivalry.
Gigantic egos.
Which has happened. I mean, if you look at England's so-called golden generation of 10, 12 years ago, they're coming out now and saying our club rivalries were what held us back. And this stuff happens where these guys want to kill each other for a year or for 11 months, and then all of a sudden they have to come together. It takes somebody of exceptional unifying abilities to
I think we're looking at something like a France 2010 World Cup situation.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think that's what's coming.
But they don't hate this coach.
I don't think,
Doesn't
not
matter.
yet. And all it takes is one game of bad tactics for them to just lose all faith in this guy.
But I don't see the players coming out and being like, "This is horrible. This is atrocious. This guy shouldn't be the coach." They're not open rebellion. I mean, I can't speak for what happens behind closed doors, but I wouldn't compare the situation to 2010 France.
Well,
not yet.
you wouldn't have
France
said that.
2010 started out well after that first draw against South Africa. I think it was a draw. After that.
They lost to South Africa. I'm looking it up now.
Oh, did they lose?
They tied Uruguay in their opening match.
Okay, and then lost to South. Yeah.
Lost
So
to
after
South
that
Africa
first
and
draw.
Mexico.
But a lot of these players have, they're rivals in club level, but they've, Jordi Alba and Carvajal and Piqué, Ramos, Iniesta, Reina, De Gea, David Silva, these guys have won big matches by coming together and putting away those differences. So if this was a group that had not done that in the past, I'd be like, well, do they need strong leadership to be able to do that? But
the ones
they've
that
proven
brought
that they can.
the ones that brought the group together are nowhere to be found in the past.
Right. I think it's going to really blow up in their face. That's my opinion. And I
agree with Marc.
It makes Friday's Portugal-Spain game sort of must-watch. It's like, but the must-watch in the way where it's like you're not even watching the game; you're just watching the faces of all the people, and it's like, whoa, what was that? What was that little look?
Yeah, who's celebrating goals? Who's,
Meanwhile, Ronaldo's going to just tear him apart somehow or whatever. But
I don't.
We do have to kind of get out of the studio.
All right.
But we'll be back on Tuesday with another podcast where we will certainly take a look back on Portugal, Spain.
I'm going to spend an hour just killing Nick Goss.
Portugal will be lucky to get 40% possession against Spain. Spain will win 3-1, 3-0.
Jesus.
Wow.
You still have Spain going 9 points, winning the group outright.
I wouldn't say that, but they will win this group.
Well, if you say they're going to beat Portugal 3-0,
they will win this group.
Spain's winning the group.
Spain does not win this group. That would be pretty disappointing for Spain.
I'm saving this quote from Nicholas Goss. This will come up in a couple of weeks.
doubt this team at your own peril. I know they have some issues with the coach and these politics and things.
He's gone. He's not there anymore.
This is one of the most dramatic and most extraordinary things that has ever happened.
If you
in a
look at
World
the
Cup.
2010 France team, is nowhere near as talented as this Spanish team. The talent level wasn't the same. They didn't have a bunch of World Cup champions like the Spain team does.
That World Cup.
They didn't have a coach. They didn't have a coach who was criticized in 2006 when he made some bad moves in the final, and they didn't do well.
It took him to penalty kicks of the final.
But he took off Henry and Ribery before that, and I mean they didn't do well in the 28 Euros.
He didn't face so much criticism that he lost his job.
It had been bubbling up for a while.
Sure.
And I don't that's not the same situation here.
Yeah, that's a better situation than this.
I think the France situation was a little worse, but like I said, I think this team is better and they have more experience than that French team does.
Well, we'll see how Spain plays out and how everybody else plays out as the World Cup is underway. We are looking forward to more hot takes from Nicholas Goss as the tournament rolls on.
Should we live stream me roasting Nick tomorrow?
If picking Spain is a hot take, then I don't know what a hot take is. I mean,
maybe there's supposed to be a recap with Marcus and one of our 3 digital hosts. Maybe it should just be Marcus and Nick go at it for a couple minutes on a segment.
I'm off on Friday, but now I'm thinking that
Nick,
I might want to come in. Yeah, I mean, I can't miss this.
Oh,
I mean,
boy.
What time is this game? Is it the middle game? Or
it's 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Okay.
So by 4 o'clock, we'll have a good understanding.
By then?
I'll be awake.
It'll end by 4.
Toasting with champagne for my prediction.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this podcast. I certainly did. It seems like Nick and Marcus did. But keep up with us throughout the World Cup with all of our coverage on NESN.com/World Cup. Follow us on iTunes by searching NESN, where you can follow all NESN podcasts. We also have our World Cup Now digital show and more video coverage, written coverage, social media coverage. World Cup is underway. Russia wins 5-0. USA, Mexico, Canada host the World Cup in 2026. And
down goes Spain.
And down goes Spain, unless you're Nick Goss. Thank you, and we will talk to you next week.